And now let's see what the market looks like at this time. Before we get there, let's talk a little bit about trade, talking about trade and what data can do or should be doing with that. We have joining us for this segment, we have the Senior Vice President of Sales at Web, and that's Ludovic Tani joins us. Mr. Ludovic, good afternoon and welcome to the program.
Good day, Ms. Thompson, and thank you for having me on your program. It's really a privilege. Thank you.
Yeah, good to have you. So we have a lot of conversations going on with, intra-African trade and all of that. But then we need to work with data. I mean, they say that's the new crude for the world. But when you look at the continent, the availability and sourcing of data, where are we exactly? Are we moving? Are we progressing? Are we anywhere close to where we should be?
You see, when we talk about data, at the heart of data is harmonization. So if you look at it, at Africa as a continent, we have 54 countries, we have more than 2,000 languages. But for data, you need one. For you to be able to use data in all different countries and be able to trade using the same set of information, you need to have a unified way of sharing of data. And for that, a lot of progress has been made. But in order to reach our objectives, you would need to have more than that. You would need to have API integrations. You would need all different countries to be using the same global data models, for example, meaning that when data is being shared, it's not only about the data that is being shared, it's about the quality of the data that is being shared. It means, how am I getting the data and how am I sharing the data? Are all countries that are trading together doing the same thing, collecting the same way, sharing the same way? If that is the case, then data can be assessed. Then you can go back to data and you can analyze it, you can compare it, you can come up with statistics. If that is not done, then things will take longer. If you are able, for example, to discuss using one harmonized language, which is normally for customs. We call that the harmonized system. The harmonized system is a way that goods are classified. And that's a common language. When you adopt this, everywhere you go around the world, they will be using the same classification. So you're talking you're taking the same language. You're using the same set of information. And that, we have made a lot of progress in Africa, but the road ahead is quite challenging.
Yeah, so do you see or hear talks around strategies to bridge this gap that could help us harmonize this common language that we need?
Well, gaps would be in terms of infrastructure. In order for you to be able to do that, you will need to have the right infrastructure. You will need to have the right people. So capacity building is important. When you look at Africa, we don't lack talent. We have all the talents that we need internally. What we lack is organization of these talents. How do you train them? How do you ensure that they are able to do what is required from them? And that is a question of organization. So for me, the challenges are not that big. And the gaps are not incommensurable. The gaps are there, but we can overcome it. We can overcome it by working together and by understanding that Africa does not need external talents. What Africa needs is to organize its own talents.
So really interesting, and the world says that the future of the world is in Africa, the young talents that we have, among other things. And you said it there, what we need is within us, on the continent. And then we have platforms such as the AFCFTA. But I wonder if you see enough progress, enough collaboration, enough understanding of the fact that we don't need external forces, to bring us together, among the African countries. Because, for instance, it's more expensive to travel between some African countries than traveling outside the African countries.
You see, Africans are the only one that can solve the problem in Africa. And for that to happen is an understanding of the complexity of trade. you were talking about AFCFTA. For example, in AFCFTA, one of the most difficult part is understanding the rules of origin, meaning that each products come somewhere, and you need to identify where they come from. So you need a certificate to identify this. This certificate is not the same in all the countries. So how do you share this certificate? You need to use data. You need to use technology. You need, then after doing that, you need to unravel the spaghetti ball of regulations of rules of origin. And there's only one way to do that. And the way is not external to Africa. The way is technology. Technology that Africa can develop by themselves with the help of companies that do that. Our companies are not here to give Africa a product ready-made. We're here to sit down, understand the ecosystem, and develop something that will work for the country. So it is context-specific. What we need data scientists, we need Africans who are software engineers who can train the context-specific instruments. That's what we need.
Yeah, but how do we go from competition? Because Nigeria, for instance, yes, you have talents, who can build this technology. You go to Kenya, you have the same thing. How do we come to a place where the continent and the people on the continent go beyond competing with one another to actually leveraging comparative advantage? Because I guess that will help us to grow faster.
Well, I will take the question from a different perspective. Why do we see competition as a negative thing? Competing does not mean that you are fighting against each other. I think competition is good. Competition is healthy. When we have countries in Africa competing against each other, it means that they want to do better. And that's a good thing. That's what will drive innovation. What will drive innovation is the fact that we are a little bit behind, but we want to be better, not because we our neighbor. We want to be better because this country is motivating us to go further than that. So for me, we should look at competition as a healthy thing. We are private sector companies. We are not the only one doing what we are doing, but we are happy to be with other competitors. We learn from them. They learn from us. And we keep improving. If we see that they come up with something more interesting than we have, then we develop something more interesting than they have. And this is good for the people. So this benefits the population, the citizens.
I must say that's an interesting perspective. We actually do need the competition because it pushes you to get better. Thank you. I think I've learned that. I did think of it from that perspective. Thank you so much for bringing that to perspective. Senior Vice President Sales at Web for Tani is Ludovic Tani. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.